Good morning. Welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it is the 21st day of February 2024. Sorry for a late start, but we had a little problems with our audio this morning. And with that said, I'm going to bring my buddies on, Bill Mohr, Ralph the IT guy, and Karen the Riveter. How you guys doing?
Great.
Yeah, doing good. How about you?
Well, I was better until all of a sudden my computer kind of crashed and we couldn't get audio up, and now I've lost all my tabs, so this is going to take me a little while to get everything back up and running, but that's okay.
The wonders of modern computing.
You know what? I like computers as long as they work. Otherwise, I hate them. They're a nuisance, right? They're annoying. So how are you guys doing this morning? And what are we talking about?
Good. Well, actually, we're going to talk about something 2 weeks ago, and it's taken us this long to get there. Regarding technology, that's actually that can be a very drawn out subject as well. I mean, how many people have a phone in their hands? We pretty much utilize that and rely on that for the majority of what we do on a daily basis, especially those in a working realm. I know most of my business is done through a phone, but I'm kind of with you on that. If I could get away from it and get out of that entire system, it'd be for the better.
Well, I really think we might just be seeing that at some point in time here. It seems like there's an awful lot of talk about the power grid crashing and we don't know. You know, there's no way to know what's going to happen here. This is the ultimate goat rodeo on going on in our society right now. There's so many unknowns, but we can certainly see that the banking system is in trouble, and we've seen some problems within the power grid and such. So I think that it's really an important thing for all of us to focus in on the fact that none of the things that we're used to are a guarantee. And we better have some knowledge, some friends, and do some preparation work, because we really don't know which way things are going. It seems pretty volatile to me, but we just keep going and do the best we can.
And really, it's a good idea to kind of evaluate things once in a while and figure out what all you think that you would have difficulties without if the internet went down, or if the power grid went down, or any of that kind of thing. On a daily basis, take note of the things you look up online, the kinds of knowledge that you would be missing if the internet went down, and find a book on it. So you've got an offline backup. I've recommended this before, but everybody should be taking their family photos that they want to keep and print them out. You get an EMP that wipes out all your data. What's most precious?
Mm-hmm. Make some photo albums, that sort of thing, like old school, like we used to. Yep. So what are we talking about with Liberty Essentials this morning, Bill?
Well, we got to go back and we got to hit this topic again. We've done it before, I think a couple of times here, regarding firearms. The powers that be, the powers that we tolerate here in America, namely those in Washington, D.C., and even closer now to our own home, the Michigan legislature, they keep re-engaging in crimes against the American people. One such was the bill that just came through in the Senate and Congress, and that was the Senate Bill 3589. This was supposedly to prohibit unauthorized private paramilitary activity. Very common words we see today, except for the term paramilitary. It's a very interesting way that they define that. And the definition that they use in this bill is any group of 3 or more persons associating under a command structure for the purpose of functioning in public or training to function in public as a combat support, law enforcement, or security services unit. Now, if you break that down a little bit more, we're talking about law enforcement or combat support, right? Those terms are utilized in our Constitution, not exactly in that regard, but are utilized in our Constitution federally as a militia who is tasked with enforcing the law, repelling invasion, and suppressing insurrection, right? Law enforcement and combat support, okay? But in this bill, not only is it defined as three or more persons, but it goes into a lot of other circumstances and offenses in section 2742, where it's talking about publicly patrolling or in a drill or engaging in techniques capable of causing bodily injury or death. And they use that as this group, right? This group of three or more being a private paramilitary organization and armed with a firearm, explosive, or incendiary device or other dangerous weapon. If you go through deeper into the laws, you realize their definition of other dangerous weapon includes many things that can cause bodily harm, right? And we even seen that when they try to propose to us on 9/11 that we had terrorists, so-called, and we know that terrorists is actually government by intimidation. But when they told us that we had terrorists take down airplanes with box cutters, okay, that is one of their dangerous weapons. Could also constitute a knife or a fixed blade weapon. And anybody that works pretty much anywhere typically will have a knife on them for numerous purposes, even cutting boxes open, right? Box cutters. That could all fall under that same offense there. And there is some truth to what they're doing. One of which, if you keep going, it's interfering with, interrupt or attempt to interfere with or interrupt government operations or a government proceeding, right? Or to interfere with or intimidate another person in that person's exercise of any right under the Constitution of the United States. And I wanted to stop there. What's one of our rights as a people? And that is specifically laid out in our Second Amendment is a well-regulated militia, right? And you can read further in that in Section 1 or Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15 and 16, I think it is, where the people are actually the militia and they are to be armed and disciplined at all times to be able to utilize their three basic duties. Again, that's enforcing the law, suppressing insurrection, and repelling invasion. So they're conflicting, as they always do, against their own constitution that they swore an oath to uphold and protect. Right? Everybody in elected office swears that same oath, and this is a violation of their oath. And I won't go any farther into that bill, but
Could I be a real smart aleck at this moment in time?
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to just be a real smart aleck at this moment in time because basically they wrote an entire bill against themselves because they've broken every single thing that they're outlining in the bill.
So the unique part of this is all the while they're trying to strip the people's right to defend themselves and to defend their states, right? It's not just about individual protection here, but it's about state protection, which they have no authority to do. It's never been delegated to them. All that power lies within the state itself and to us, the people. All the while they're trying to strip this away from the people. Who do they have around them? Namely, armed guards, paramilitary activity surrounding them to protect them against who? We, the people, right? Who own that right, our God-given right. They didn't grant it to us. We didn't give the authority to them to modify, change, or repeal it. And that is all they do. And that goes for just about every right that we have. They've been attacking, but we're kind of focused on this one.
Well, I would argue too that the way that they've written that pretty much outlaws karate.
Yes, because there are times, especially prior military service, in certain aspects like the Navy SEALs and the Marine Recon Team and the others, the Special Forces, right? Their appendages, their hands and their feet, are classified as their deadly weapons in close combat. I mean, we carry this with us. Even, in my pocket, I have a pen. There are instances where you can go back and see somebody being assaulted with a pen or a pencil, okay, or a rock. Let's look at Cain and Abel, right? Anything can be designed as a deadly weapon.
Even if you don't want to do a lot of research, and you just happen to watch Batman, a pencil.
Yep, that's right. So now we are, at least the three of us are here, especially officers party. So I wanted to read out exactly what we say about this issue. And you can read the Republican platform as well. They have several paragraphs of this, and it's very, very broad, and they focus on the individual's right to defend themselves in the Second Amendment, and that's not its designed purpose. But the U.S. Taxpayers Party says, Article 1, Section 6 of the Michigan Constitution both establish that individuals have the right to keep and bear arms for the security of the state and for their own persons. Persons having no prior record of crimes against persons or property involving the use of firearms should be permitted to own and carry arms. Remember, we talked about that, the Latin word arma, meaning weapons of war, not just pistols and rifles, in any fashion they so choose, unencumbered by the state or federal government. We affirm that all laws which support the prosecution of persons using firearms in the commissions of crimes against real persons or property should be strictly enforced. And why is that? Because if we bring justice upon those who are committing the crimes, it will deter future crimes from being committed. Okay? We cannot blame the firearms that they're trying to get rid of. We blame the person holding them. We continue. It says, also consistent with the original intent of the founders and framers of this nation, we affirm that a constitutional militia be reestablished and returned to the state of Michigan and to the several states. The current Michigan National Guard has been gradually transformed and federalized into a standing Army Reserve. State and local police agencies have been federalized and thus threaten state, local, and individual sovereignty. Control must be returned to the state of Michigan. Until a constitutional militia is restored to the state of Michigan, federal assistance and encumbrances upon state and local police must be eliminated, returning accountability only to the state of Michigan and the local municipalities. The USTPM also rejects the use of federal troops or police for the use of civilian population command and control. That would be the responsibility of the properly constituted and regulated constitutional militia. Okay? We stick to the Constitution here. We know exactly why we have a militia, why we have a Second Amendment, and why in Michigan there's Article 1, Section 6. It clearly defines the people as the power to enforce the law. And until we get back to that, we're not going to see anything else change, and they're going to keep re-engaging on that front until they successfully pulled it off. We look to history. What has history taught us? And I'm not going to go way back. We'll just go to recent history where we might have learned a little bit in our public indoctrination camps, namely the public school system. But nowadays, I don't believe a lot of this is being taught. So if we go back to 1911, the country of Turkey, if anybody remembers that, 1911, they disarmed their citizens, right? Little by little, they finally took their arms. And shortly after that, 1.5 million Armenians that lived in Turkey were murdered. right? It was an Armenian genocide or an ethnic cleansing there in the country of Turkey. In 1929, Russia disarmed their citizens in the same way that we see being done today. The next 24 years, 20 million Russians were murdered, right? Another genocide. They went after their political dissidents to eliminate them so that they could prove that they were, they would use the word lawfully, but that they could prove that what they were doing was correct. In 1935, China disarmed their citizens in the same way we see being done. Between 1948 and 1952, 20 million Chinese were murdered. They did it the same way. They went after the same type of people. Anybody who would oppose them, they would eliminate. Okay? 1938, now we're getting a little closer, Germany disarmed their citizens. All right? We can remember that. A lot of that is still being taught in schools during the beginning of the Third Reich and the Nazi regime, right? The next 7 years, 6 million of the Jews around the area are murdered. Okay? This is a political genocide against the people. Okay?
And
In
5
50s
million Christians, 5 million Christians and all the gypsies. I mean, they went after anyone that opposed them. It really wasn't as much a racial cleansing there, I think, than in just anyone who spoke out against their power.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And if anybody knows from history, Adolf Hitler was actually elected, so-called elected by the people. But the following generation of Adolf Hitler were actually praising the Nazi regime yet. And this was a generation that watched them kill off their brothers and sisters, their fathers, parents, grandparents, and such.
And they did it the way that they're doing it here, which involved the clerks at the level of the clerks. It was the entirety. It wasn't just the few people at the top that we love to hate. It was, in fact, the whole system. And look at the state of Michigan, how many clerks actually disobeyed the ruling that was coming down with from the Board of Elections to break the law.
Yep. That's how they do it. They use their useful idiots, right? Those that they've propped up in the local governments. And they've been just as indoctrinated to believe that they serve the state. They serve their next highest authority of an elected servant. And I'm so sick of people calling these elected servants leaders. We have no leaders. The people are the government. It's time that we assert that role properly and assume that power.
We have no leaders at all. You're absolutely correct. Because when you look at people that put themselves in front of we the people, that's not a leader. That's a victimizer. That's an abuser. That is a selfish child. And that's all we have that I've seen at this point in time, which is really unfortunate and sad.
Yep.
Donald Trump is a good leader, but I mean, I'm talking the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan sucks.
Well, and if you remember the saying, it's by the people, of the people, and for the people. Not just by the people and for the people, but composed of us.
Yep, that's right. That's right. It is our duty. It's our duty to take care of this. So if we continue, we can get even closer here, right? 1956, Cambodia did the same thing. Between 75 and 77, 1 million people in Cambodia were murdered. In 64, Guatemala did the same thing. And they go on to murder 100,000 Mayans in the country of Guatemala. In 1970, right? Now we're getting into some of our lifetimes. Not mine. I'm still young. I'm going to keep that. 1970, Uganda disarmed their citizens. And throughout the next 10 years, who did they go after? Does anybody know? Uganda went after Christians. They took out 300,000 Christians in a decade's time, immediately after disarming them. In 2012, we're still living this one out, but in 2012, Venezuela has now disarmed their citizens as well. And if we look, we can watch that same progress happen. You keep an eye on Venezuela, you will see the exact same thing going on. right?
Well, and Venezuela just decided to grab the country next door and vote themselves the ability to overtake their neighbor because there were petroleum deposits found there because they screwed their country up so bad. Maduro didn't put anything into infrastructure, so they got to go gobble up a country next door to them and just say, "Oh, we just decided we're going to own you."
That's right. And what is America doing? We're following that same path, right? America is a terrorist to the world. Okay? If we look, why do these other nations hate us so much? We've got 700 and some military bases across the world. Okay? Unconstitutional military bases.
850.
Is it that high now?
It's that high.
We are playing the world police all the while stripping other nations of their resources by force, right? We're not there promoting what they call democracy. We're not there helping individual citizens of other nations stand up against their own tyrants. We're there to assert our authority in their nations, to strip their natural resources to benefit us. And we look at it, and they're flooding in here now. Namely those out of the Middle East and China, Russia, Canada. They're starting to flood into America, and these people hate us for that very reason. Okay? So throughout history, we can see, and that's just recent history. You can go back thousands of years and see it was all done the same way. That nothing changes. There's nothing new to the way things are done, right? There's nothing new under the sun in Ecclesiastes. Everything repeats itself unless we put a stop to it. But if you go back, what's the purpose of an armed citizenry? I like to go back to Genesis 14. If anybody remembers that with Abraham, when Lot was taken, Abraham, being the family of Lot, in verse 12, they took Lot, Abraham's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods and departed. And there came one that had escaped and told Abraham the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre, the Amorite, the brother of Ishmael, the brother of Aner, and these were confederate with Abraham. When Abraham heard that his brother was taken captive, what did he do? He armed his trained servants, born in his own house, 318 of them, and pursued them unto Dan. He divided himself against them, he and his servants, by night, and smote them, and pursued them unto Hobah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his brother Lot and his goods, and the women also, and the people. There was a problem. Somebody went after Abraham's family. So he armed his entire servants, his entire household, and went after it and dealt with the issue. And you can look at this and say, well, he should have just gone and, pled with the city and gone through their legal system and their judges and
got a permit and then,
right. and a license to go in there and actually remove his brother, who is now a taken slave of the city. But he didn't do that.
Somebody that escorted him. I mean, this is exact. Keep going.
Yep. He went in there and he handled the situation. He enforced the law, right? They illegally, unlawfully took his family by force, and he went in there and got him back. You read in the, whoops, I don't know what I just did. I think I found it. Let me go back, see if I can make that work. You read in the New Testament, what are we instructed? What are we instructed to do as disciples, right? Those who claim to be Christians. Christ said, and this is just before the garden, in Luke 11:21. He says, when a strong man armed keepeth his palace, his goods are in peace, right? But when a stronger than he shall come upon him and overtake him, he taketh from him all his armor wherein he trusteth, and divided his spoils. Okay? And we can take application from this. And George Washington was one of those that the citizenry should be armed enough to defend themselves in the state. And I'm paraphrasing, it's not a direct quote. but we should have enough arms to be able to counter any force that comes against us. And who is this again, right? The state should have enough arms to encumber any force, yes, but who's the state? Who's the government of the state? The people.
Be the people.
The people should have enough arms to do this. And all the while, the federal government is continuing to try to strip it away. And in Luke 22, he told his disciples that he doesn't have a sword, sell your garment and go get one. Right? That's a pretty bold statement. Sell even the clothes that you have to go get a sword. Right? The arm of the day, the weapons of war of the day. And there's a reason for this, because as we could see from previous countries, if we allow ourselves to be disarmed, we can only expect to reap the same results that those who were slain in those countries got, because we are considered to them the terrorists, the domestic terrorists. We are considered to them the political dissents. We are the ones who oppose them at every given level that we can, right? Let's bring this full house back around to the state of Michigan. Michigan now has just enforced their, high-risk protection laws. We know them as red flag laws, supported by about every politician out there, whether they say it or not. And this allows for almost anybody you've ever had contact with, right? Including people in the past that you've dated or lived with, law enforcement, mental health officers, which I'd love somebody to show me that in the Constitution, if you would. But anyone along those lines who deem you possibly a threat to yourself or to someone else based on something you may have posted online or may have said in public, they, not you, they will go to a court and get a judge to issue a warrant to remove a temporary warrant, might I add, to remove all of your firearms from your possession.
Yeah, you ain't going to get them back. If they take them, they're gone. This is not something that they're going to say, oh, sorry, here are your firearms back. They're going to go, oh, sorry, just go back to your life and don't do something wrong, but there's no way they're going to return them.
Yep, that's right. They deem us guilty long before we even get to meet our accusers. Okay, the accusers never have to show up at the courthouse. It is only somebody who has been told, like a law enforcement officer, which, as we just talked about, are the people. A police officer, by statute, can go in there and have a judge issue a warrant for such thing. That violates your Second Amendment. That violates your First Amendment, freedom of speech. That violates our Fourth Amendment, protection against unwarranted searches and seizures, right? That violates our Fifth Amendment. They're coming after us in every ground that they can. And I'm here to say, when it comes to firearms, you can do all the political debates people want, whether it be in political parties or even in the halls of government. You can debate this issue all you want. But as far as me and my house, there's no debate. If somebody comes for the guns of me or my family, or those around me, whether it be friends or my neighbors, I'm going to be there to stop it, because I know how history works. This is the first step to totalitarianism that will lead into communism, that will lead into the destruction of everything we know as Americans, right? And let me say it, they cannot take our rights because we never gave them the authority to issue them. Rights can only be forfeited. If we're not willing to stand for them, then you don't have any. It's as simple as that. Freedom has to be fought for and protected and defended and handed on to the next generation for them to do the same thing, as we know Ronald Reagan said, right? Love him or hate him. He was right in that regard. So there's some other bills going around now, and I didn't research this to see if they've actually been passed or not, and that's my mistake there. But House Bills 4127 and 4128 in the Michigan legislature, these are trying to usurp the constitutional authority that they have to not only enforce the red flag laws, to enforce more restrictions on our Second Amendment rights. But now they want to claim that you can't even have a firearm in your possession or carry it anywhere near a polling location. Okay? Jocelyn Benson tried to do this back in 2020 or 2022. I forget which one it was. And the U.S. Taxpayers Party actually passed the resolution and sent it out to the counties saying you're not going to do this. You don't have the right to restrict it in that manner. But now they've gone farther, knowing that Benson cannot do that. She realizes she doesn't have the authority because she put a stop to it after our statement came out. Now they're trying to go through the legislature and make it into this pretended legislation, as our founding fathers called it, to say that you cannot carry a firearm within, let me see if I can get this right. Let me just read this. Within 40 days of an election, not only at a polling location, but even at ballot drop boxes. Okay? You think about that. We have hundreds of ballot drop boxes, which all should go away. But we have hundreds of ballot drop boxes in each county. Okay? And we have hundreds of thousands of armed citizens in the state of Michigan. Yeah, I'm going to start calling it that.
Michigan.
We are one of the heaviest armed states of the union, right? Montana may have us beat. I think they have like just under 4 guns per person in Montana. But Michigan is one of the heaviest armed states of the union. And we have people that not only carry constitutionally, but that have actually gone through the process to get concealed carry permits, right? We've asked permission from our servants to do that which is normally legal, thus carrying firearms. But we have all these people around there, and they're trying to make it illegal to be able to carry your firearm within 40 days of an election by a ballot drop box, right? That doesn't, they offer no exemptions for whether or not you're in a vehicle or walking down the street, right? They're trying to make it a arrestable and jailable offense to do such things. You got to ask the question, why? All the while the people in our state government have armed security, they're trying to take our security away because this can lead right into elections, because they want to control the outcome, right? They don't want anybody with the possibility of being able to enforce the law against them. That is the only reason for this. And though these bills were split down party lines, right? Party lines, Democrat, Republican, which don't exist in the legislature, all right? They exist outside only. When you're in office, you serve the people. Yeah, you serve the people, not the party, all right? The parties are there to hold you accountable, which they don't do. But you are there only to serve the people, if there's any elected servants watching. So, I mean, what can we expect out of all this? Okay, they're going to keep re-engaging on that same front, and we can keep fighting their little flags. I like to utilize the analogy. We have 2 castles, 2 homes, right? I use castles just because they're strongholds. We have 2 castles fighting for dominance in the state, right? You have that of the lawful, right? Those who want to uphold justice, to uphold our liberties, to retain the freedoms and the rights that so many have bled and fought for before us. And you have another castle that is completely lawless, who seeks nothing but to tear down the law and to further restrict the people, not restrict government, but to empower the government to infringe upon the rights of the people. Okay? This lawless castle has all their little flags flying. Okay? All their leadership flags that they prop up. And our lawful castle that we try to retain, we have the flags of our principles. We have the flags of our Constitution. We have the flags of our moral and religious background here in the country, right? Or in the state. The people of the lawful castle, not all, but the majority of people we're fighting the flags of the lawless castle, right? We're shooting at their flags, all the while they are shooting at our foundation. Okay? They're not taking out our flags because they know they can't. They know that we are right in that regard. They can only take out our foundation. If they do that, our castle crumbles. Okay? All the while we're taking out nothing but their flags. If we want to actually make progress and be able to succeed in a restoration, we need to start going after their foundation, because their foundations are nothing but wicked. Their foundations are corrupt, and we need to start attacking them at the root level, right? Cut the tree off at the roots instead of fighting the little issues, the little flags that pop up here and there. And granted, as Protestants, right, as Protestants, we should be out there speaking out against those issues. We should be out there publicly showing a little bit of force against them on every front, on every issue. And I'm thankful there are people out there that continue to do so. But the majority of our efforts should be attacking the foundation, the illegal and unlawful foundation that they've propped their castle up on. If we do that, it's over for them, right? All we have to do, like the meme has with the people under the chessboard and the big government leaders, like they call them, the big power prop ups, are sitting there playing chess on the backs of the American people. All it takes is for us to stand up in mass and say enough is enough. It's over for you, right? And then lawfully go after them and bring about the justice that's so deserved, so that the next generation will see that and know that they cannot get away with that on our watch. That is a duty of the American people. So anybody hearing any of this, if we get to the point, or if you get to the point, I'll speak individually here, if you get to the point where you're willing to say, I'll give up my firearms because that's the law that they've put in place, you've deceived yourself into believing what is lawful. It is not lawful.
Become part of the problem. I mean, anybody that follows an unlawful rule, mandate, whatever you want to say, is guilty just as much as the people that have made those laws. Like, so just for example, if a cop goes ahead and goes after somebody and it's an unlawful law, and they go after them just to harass them, they're guilty too. And so are the judges. So are the Soros judges. So when we go after and we talk about the laws in the legislature and such, remember, it, as the saying says, shit rolls downhill there too, and it's not just the ones at the top, it's the ones that are downstream from them. So like, just say the clerks, the cops, the state police in the state of Michigan is a unionized police force. And they're the ones that have really, that unionized police force, stripping the funds away from the sheriffs, as well as, any of the local policing, is what's really taken down the application and or following the law, because there's not enough people to do it. I mean, the whole system is an integrated mess. It's a mess right now. But on an individual basis, we can protest by refusing to capitulate or comply with their nonsense. And then if they go after you, come back and get in court and let them have it. You can't walk away and just decide, well, it's a nuisance to me. I don't want to do it. I don't know how to do it. I'm scared to do it. You've got to get in and fight.
Well, first they came for the socialists and I did not speak out, right?
Mm-hmm.
You let that slippery slope start, and even for situations that you don't think will ever apply to you, you let that slippery slope start, and it's real easy for it to keep going.
Yeah, that was Dietrich Bonhoeffer, wasn't it, that said that?
I believe it's Martin Niemöller.
Oh, Niemöller, that's right, Niemöller, where they came after one and it didn't affect him, so he didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And they came after another, and it didn't affect him, so they didn't do anything. And by the end, they came after him, and there was no one to stand. There was no one to stand for him.
the socialists, the trade unionists, the Jews, and then they came for me. And that's I see that a lot with that's one thing that I see with censorship a lot too. That happens a lot there, and people don't protest that. And we have that with all of our rights, though, that if you let them start stomping on the rights in one area that you don't think is going to apply to you, that, oh, that's just for those guys over there, or that's just for the bad guys over there, that'll never affect me. Well, it sure as heck will eventually, because it starts that slippery slope.
And where we can fight this on an individual basis, even with the censorship issue. And our next guest that's going to be coming on in a few minutes, he's an investigator into our elections, and he's been silenced like all of us have been. And so what do we do on an individual basis? We pick up where the fake stream media and everybody else leaves off, and we pass on the information from person to person to person, like they used to do it in the taverns. Now we can use social media, but all of us have a responsibility to speak up, to say something. When we hear good information, we have to get in the game and pass it along to others, because we can overwhelm them, even with educating our own nation and letting people know what's going on, and then go into action together in a legal framework, which, like with the resolutions that we write in the Constitution Party, all of those things, putting our public officials on notice and carrying it through. We have to do that, and people have to step up to fill these positions. We've got to get people that are willing to run for office. Do you need to know what you're doing? No, you don't. Just be honest, and you'll get it figured out. But we have to step up and take that chance and do something. We can't just sit still and watch this thing crumble.
Yeah, and regarding that, how many people already know the preamble where we say "we the people," right? The majority of people out there you talk about, and they understand we the people are the government, okay? But those same majority, how many of them actually know our Constitution? If we are the government, we should know that document. At least a majority of it, right? There's some of it that'll probably never apply to you on an individual basis, but at a daily level, that document is being played out. And if we don't know it, how can we properly govern ourselves, right? I forget who said it, but for somebody that wishes to be ignorant and free, a nation that wishes to be ignorant and free has never existed nor will ever exist. Okay? You cannot be ignorant of this issue and then claim that the people are the government. We have to get back to knowledge. If we don't understand it, then they will continue to engage on every front to trample upon our rights, right? Everybody knows it. Hosea, what is it, 4:6? My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, right? The majority of people know that, but how much do we apply that?
Well, in Brandenburg News Network, we apply it every day, but
May I?
Go ahead, please.
Hi, guys.
How you
Hi,
doing?
Karen.
So I've got, thank you, Bill, for my introduction. I've got the Constitution of Michigan of 1963 right in front of me because I noticed something when you were reading Article 1, Section 6, bearing of arms. Every person has a right to keep and bear arms for the defense of himself and state. Well, what did they do? They created at MCL, a code law, definition for the word person.
Of course, we're too stupid to know what a person is, clearly.
So the person is, that definition can expand and be applied to bodies, politic and corporate, as well as to individuals. What is our state? Our state is a corporation. It's body politic. So let's read that again with that term replaced. Everybody, politic and corporate, has a right to keep and bear arms for the defense of himself and the state. That basically gives the state the legal ability to defend itself.
Well, that Constitution was illegally installed in
Yes.
1963, and so it's like I got to tell you what, it's like going back to that. We need to go nullify this nonsense back. Probably about 90% of it needs to go because the stuff was installed illegally, unlawfully, and by the global crime syndicate that's in place right now.
But it goes to my point Bill's point, I mean, that we should know these things. We have 4 constitutions in the state of Michigan.
And 2 of them are unlawful.
And they never repealed or in some way ended the first. So technically we're still under the first constitution. But as I'm sure Bill has pointed out before, Article 1, Section 1, all political power is inherent in the people. Government is instituted for their equal benefit, security, and protection. And we tend to forget that because there's so much gobbledygook after that. The preamble, we the people of the state of Michigan, grateful to Almighty God for the blessings of freedom and earnestly desiring to secure these blessings undiminished to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution. It's kind of not really because it wasn't done properly, but we are all grateful to Almighty God. And do we forget that on a daily basis too? Are we truly grateful? And if we are grateful, then we will treasure it. The blessings of freedom. If you are grateful to the blessings of freedom that God gave you, then you will do what you can to protect those blessings. And that is one of the elements in the Substack that I published yesterday, by the way. That if you have someone else's blessings of freedom getting trampled on, regardless of how you feel about that person or an alleged crime that they committed or the conviction, if they were convicted, they deserve the equal blessings of freedom under God and as an American. And if you are not willing to uphold that, we have a problem. It's as simple as when someone is speaking in a public, before a public board. If I've done it before, so that's why I bring it forward. If somebody is about to speak and I know I'm probably not going to really like what they have to say, but the board cuts them off, the officials, not the leaders, as Bill pointed out. No, we don't want to hear from you. You're speaking too long. We've heard too many people, whatever the excuse is. I'm going to stand up for that person's right to speech as well as anybody who is a friend or who I like what they're going to say. Yep. We have to be willing to make that self-sacrifice to say, I will protect your blessings of freedom because that means, as Ralph was pointing out, I am also protecting mine because they're going to come after me next.
Yeah, well
I found
said.
a copy
Go ahead. We've got 2 minutes here, guys, because I've got my next guest that has to come, and I don't mean to cut anybody off. And I'm sorry that it was because we lost 15 minutes at the beginning of the show. So
yeah, well, you're absolutely right that it's more important to defend the rights of the people you disagree with than the people that you agree with. It's more important that way because that is, if everyone agrees on something and you're only protecting the rights of those people, that becomes tyranny real fast. You have to have that dissent and that discussion to be able to come to informed conclusions as a society.
Well said, all. Well, hopefully next week we'll be able to get on earlier without all of this technical difficulty we had at the beginning of the broadcast. But I'm so thankful that you guys were able to come on today, and we'll see you guys next week. And we're going to keep beating the drums here of this country really falling apart, and the fact that we need every single person out there to join with us. So have a great day, and thanks for being on, guys. Love you to pieces, and we shall see you next Wednesday.
All right. Take
Great
care.
show.
See ya.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
I'll be right back on with Peter Bernegger, I think you say his last name, and we're going to be talking about Smurfing. Good morning. Welcome to Brandenburg News Network. It is the second hour second hour of our show today, February 21, 2024. And I want to introduce my next guest, Peter Bernegger. I think you say it. I'm going to let him introduce himself here. But I got to tell you that we've had Jason Ikes on and a bunch of the election investigators for quite a long time. And Peter's been out there. I've been kind of watching what he was doing. And like a lot of people that are actually doing the work behind the scenes, what I started seeing is people were grabbing his work and taking credit for it, which really pisses me off. Okay. And so I got his number and was able to get him on. He's a very busy man. And I'm just extraordinarily pleased that he decided to come on today, because this is one very impressive person. And I would encourage you, as we were talking before, to please pass this information on, because he has been silenced heavily like the rest of us. Morning, Peter. How you doing?
Good morning. Nice to be on your show.
Very nice to you. Can you see your last name for me so I make sure I get the pronunciation right?
Sure. It's Peter Bernegger.
So Bernegger. Okay. Now, thank you so much for coming on. I got to tell you, I was looking through your website here. Let me throw it up here a minute so that people can see what you've done and some of the things you've done. And then we're going to talk about, this is electionwatch.info. And there is a lot of information here, including Smurfing data by state, and then a lot of articles and such. So I would encourage everyone to go to that website and check out what Peter's done. But I'm so excited to talk to you. Can you please tell everybody what's going on out there, what you've been investigating, and the work that you're involved in?
Well, we started back in a week after the November 3rd election, when we had a person come to us, a good friend, say she was told she had already voted. Someone used an absentee ballot and placed it in her name. So that sparked it. And we knew from day one, because we had a great friend of mine, Gary Wade, who's now since passed away, who was a criminal investigator. And he says, we got to treat this like a criminal investigation. And that's exactly what we did from our very first meeting back in November of 2020. And I think that's how we made leaps and bounds ahead of other groups, not to disparage them in any way, but that they were looking in the wrong places because they were setting it up like a business. We set it up like a criminal investigation from day one.
What's the difference?
Well, you're looking, you know that something went wrong, and then basically what you do is you follow the evidence. Other people were so busy trying to set up standard operating procedures, write a business plan, have structure and organization, and you don't need that or don't want that, because it slows you down in following the evidence. So at this point now, we've probably put out over 5,000 public records requests. We filed well over 15 lawsuits. We have 9 open lawsuits right now. We've been winning, not every one, but we've been winning lawsuits to fix the election system here in Wisconsin. We've been sharing information across the country with other groups. But election fraud is our primary,
Focus.
Focus. However, this led us into the money part of it. And that's what I wanted to talk about today and let people know what's going on is what we have found what we call smurfing. And that's a term that is used in federal courts and also by drug dealers, whereby you're taking large amounts, whether it's drugs or money, and you're breaking them down into smaller amounts to wash it, to launder it, to wash off the names of where the original perpetrators came from or who they are. So you'll see layers of washing in this process where, say, if somebody like Reid Hoffman, the co-founder of LinkedIn, is involved in this criminal money laundering scam where he'll put $50 million into, say, some of his PACs. Those PACs then donate to like Act Blue or Emily's List or the Democratic National Party. Then they will break the money down into very small amounts, as little as 11 cents, 50 cents, $1, $4, $5. But they'll do millions of transactions over the years to get the money, that 50 million is an example, into the campaigns across the country. One is you can't see really who donated the money. So they're using fictitious names of unsuspecting senior citizens. They use their name and address to fill out the campaign finance reports, for example, and file them to the Federal Election Commission and or your equivalent state election commission or campaign finance committee in your state. And when you look at the donation, if you look up, say, Henry Smith, and he donated $5 to Act Blue, you think nothing of it. However, when you look at Henry Smith across the nation, you can see that he's made, for example, 29,000 contributions in, say, 5 years, which is humanly impossible because you'd be doing something like in the neighborhood of 10 donations every day, 365 days per year for 5 years. And no human being does that. I'm going to show some charts here on the screen that show that this is in a logarithm that is running these donations. And Act Blue is in on this. And then they started roughly about 2010, 2012 area. They really ramped it up in 2016, 2018. And then the Republicans just couldn't stand it. They got onto the same platform as Act Blue, but they called it Win Red in 2019.
There you go.
Finding the Republicans are involved, in particular the Rhino Republicans. We've got Mitch McConnell in on this, Lindsey Graham, Kevin McCarthy, U.S. Congressman Mike Gallagher. We have found him. He's smurfing. Now, he just is announced last week he's not going to run for office again next year. So everybody's involved in it to an extent. All the liberals are involved in it, and most of the rhinos are involved in it on the Republican side. But the good news at this point in time is this is their Achilles heel. This is how we can take down the liberals across the country for money laundering, for campaign finance violations. And when we investigate these violations, we're finding other violations. And we've been filing ethics reports. That's who oversees it in our state, the Wisconsin Ethics Commission. We filed now 37 ethics complaints against campaigns and their treasurers for money laundering, for campaign finance violations, and other violations that we found in our research. And I'd like to pull up on my screen here if I can.
Yeah, you can. I'll stop my screen and just go ahead and share it. Well, that brings me to what happened to me a couple weeks ago or so, where they hit my credit card, my personal credit card, Win Red did, for donations between $500 and $2,000 a pop, going to campaigns I'd never heard of and foundations. And all of a sudden I start looking at all these charges coming through, going, how in the world did this happen? I don't even know these people. And they were large donations. So I expect that what's happening here is that they're hitting campaigns where they can, not just individuals, but Win Red clearly hit my personal credit card thinking that it was a campaign credit card for large donations to other campaigns.
Yes, we have seen other large donations also. The more common one, though, in the volume of transactions, we're talking through Act Blue alone. They since their formation, they've sent through $2 billion. Now, some of that's legitimate, But what we're finding is you take that Henry Smith, who's like 82 years old, and he made maybe a $10 donation every month to Act Blue to be dispersed to different Democrat campaigns. The problem is somebody took his name and address because they saw it on Act Blue, and then they just pumped through the volume. So he might be making, say, 12 donations a year. Well, what these guys are doing to him is they're putting through like 3,000 or 4,000 donations per year, even 5,000, 6,000. And he has no idea that this is happening.
Well, I'm going to tell everybody out there, watch your credit cards. If you donated or you've done anything with WinRed, that, you know, some people said that, well, they could be duplicates. No, they're not. They went to specific campaigns.
Yes.
And we called and they had no knowledge of any of this. So this is flat out. What happened to me was flat out on WinRed.
Yep. Now we know, I'm going to give you a real world example. Congressman Scalise, he had a donation made to him by a particular person of $500. This is a different scam, whereby his $500, the original donor intended it to go to Scalise's campaign. And what happened in the end, Scalise ended up with about 40% of the $500. WinRed took the 60% of the 500, and they, without the permission of the donor, they took that 60% of the 500 and dispersed it to who they wanted the money to go to. That is outright fraud. And plus, each transaction, they're taking a cut of 3.95%.
At least.
So the more they split it up, the more cuts that they get of their 3.95%. So WinRed and Act Blue in particular, but there's a lot more. Many of these big PACs are doing this. They split the donation up multiple times without the contributor knowing it. Sometimes they do, but many times they don't, such as in your case. And then they get that cut each time that they're divvying up the money.
Well, and we don't know where it goes from there because, like you said, they could be taking small chunks and putting it into other campaigns. And my concern is that they were taking my name and putting it on donations to candidates, because a lot of people look at the campaign finance reports to see who you're supporting. Correct. In order to link me to somebody that they either have dirt on or that they're going to set up for a fall and say, hey, look, Brandenburg, contributed to this, which I haven't. I do not contribute to political campaigns. I had 2 donations that I put into to individuals that I thought were good, which turned out I would never support them again. But I thought I was doing the right thing, at the time. And they're just people I don't care for. Okay. And so that's my thing. So I don't give to political campaigns. It's not I might pay into like an event or something like that, but not just a donation, certainly not like this.
I would get to the point of what we've learned so far. I would not make any political donations at all whatsoever. Because what happens now, we also found out is that when someone makes a donation to a campaign, and maybe it is a person you support and want to help them, what happens is that person in the end, it's almost like 90% of the time, that excess money that's there then gets passed on to the rhino of the state. Whoever's the number one rhino, if you're on the Republican side, and same thing happens on the Democrat side. So your money, if you give it to a solid conservative campaign or candidate, many times the excess funds left over get passed on to the state boss, the head. So your money is going to support a rhino. So that's why I don't encourage anybody to make any political donations, because the system is so corrupt on both sides at multiple levels, where we've seen as many as 8 transactions where somebody donates $100. It gets split into 8 transactions. Each of the 8 transactions get hit with a 3.95% fee. So a vast majority of your money is not even going to the guy that you wanted to in the first place.
Yeah, and you really don't know where they're going to, because this is what I saw when I was running for governor, is they're passing this money back and forth all the time. It's all about finding ways to launder it. That's exactly what's happening, and not show really where it's going, but they're passing money back and forth between campaigns. And it's really, it was disturbing to me. I didn't even know this was going on. Of course, I ran for governor not knowing a thing because I wasn't politically attached to either side. I just want my country back.
Well,
But
let me
it's
show
horrible.
my screen here, please.
If you go to present
Yes.
and then hit present, and then it'll bring a window up, and then you pick a window, and then
All right.
then I'll, as soon as I see that, then I'll bring it in. There you go.
All right, so this is our website. It's electionwatch.info. If you scroll down to the map here, and Donna, you're in Michigan, right?
Correct.
All right, so you click on the state that you want to view, and we've populated it with a list of Smurfs. Smurfs are people who we've identified that are having their name and address used without their knowledge to make campaign contributions. Now, this happens to be the #1 gentleman in Michigan, Robert Pushek. There's a little story there. I'm not going to tell the whole thing, but he got tipped off before a camera crew went up to interview him. When the camera crew got there, he claimed that he's making these donations. Well, I know for a fact he isn't, because he got tipped off in advance that the camera crew was coming. But again, that's another story. But I'm going to show you now. Here's his name. The first tip off here, as you see, is the different derivative spellings, where my cursor is, of these names. We found as high as 26 different derivative spellings. No person does that. No person even uses, like here, we've got 5 different spellings. Here we got about 7 different spellings. Nobody spells their name 7 different ways. And that's the first tip off. Next is, he lives in Michigan, of course, like I said, 35,000 transactions. Now, this number's dated. It'll be higher than this now, because this goes on every day. They're laundering the money in every day. So these numbers will be higher if you looked up a current run on him.
So what you're saying is he was in on this. So there are innocent Smurfs, and there's ones that have been in on it.
Well, he didn't know this was happening to him. But when somebody was at a meeting, I don't want to dwell on this, that he was at a meeting where somebody disclosed this information. Somebody called this Robert and tipped him off that a camera crew was coming to his house. Okay, so anyways, the number of transactions are 35,000. All right, you have to understand what that means. That means he would be over like 12 or 13 transactions per day, every day, 365 days a year. That it's impossible that somebody would do that for 132,000. Now, he's an elderly gentleman, he's in his late 70s. He's a retired teacher, and here he's supposedly making $132,000 of political campaigns and donations. Now, I'm going to check on this little green box here. That's what people need to remember. And up comes the transactions that of the 35,000.
Wow.
Now, this alone shows you, this graph shows you that it's done by a computer algorithm. Because if you go to, this is interactive, you put your cursor on that particular day, if you can see my screen, on July 27th of 2021, this Robert supposedly made 146 contributions in one day.
Wow.
Okay. What human being does that? But then you go to the next day, he made 53. The next day, he made 16. The next day, he made 32. This is not real. This is not realistic. And then here's the green. The green line is the money. The red line is the number of contributions. So this day in February 28th, 21, he was supposedly made 56 transactions for $914. I'm telling you, he didn't. This is done by a computer. This is done by the bad people who are scamming Americans. There's the one, December 25th on Christmas on 2022, he made supposedly 112 contributions to political campaigns. Now, we found over 100,000 of these Smurfs all spread all across the country. And of course, you're going to find them spread across the country, because you're not going to put them all in one state or all one city. You're going to spread them out. And then you're going to take the money and divvy it up into small little transactions. And you can go right here to see the transactions. You click on the transactions, and here we go. Here's the date, the name. and earmarked. Now, earmarked is basically a code word for laundering at this point. And you can see the dollar amounts. I'm just going to pick another. You can see these small dollar amounts that he's donating, supposedly $3, $50, $15, $3. That's how they're getting the money into the system. And here's a second one. Here's a Nancy, 19,000, but a much higher dollar amount, almost $1 million. And we click on her chart. There you go again. So supposedly on this day, she made 460 contributions in one day, according to the Federal Election Commission. Now, the Federal Election Commission knows about this. They have done nothing. In fact, it's worse. They appointed a Donna, I forget her last name. She's an attorney that Joe Biden appointed fairly recently to head up the FEC. The reason why is her real job is to cover this up, and I have evidence of that, is whereby she came from as an attorney in the Stacey Abrams campaign that is involved in smurfing and criminal money laundering into Stacey Abrams' campaign. Donna was the attorney for the campaign. She knew this was happening. She knew these monies, these funny monies, were coming into Stacey's campaign. And so, what does Joe Biden do? He picks her and puts her up as the head of the FEC. So she's covering this up. But here's the transactions here. Now, this is an elderly retired person. 380 transactions on March 31st, 2021, for $26,000.
And they have no idea that this is happening to their names. This is horrible.
No, but if you ask her, are you making donations to Act Blue or Emily's List? She'll say yes. Well, the problem is she'll be making just a couple of donations like a normal person would be. She's not making these, unbelievable numbers here. 246 transactions that day, 184 the day before, 94 the day before, 245 the day before that. This is criminal on a national scale and an international scale, that this money's coming in to fund these campaigns. And that's why you see these tremendous amount of monies coming into the campaigns, unheard of ever before, because they were doing this on a smaller scale and select candidates or campaigns, say from 2010 and on. But they really got onto steroids on this in 2018, and they just went hog wild in 2019, 2022, in that time frame. And this is exposing them. They got too greedy is what happened.
Do you know, besides the organizations that we know that are doing this, are there individuals that are also, besides the gal that's in Stacey Abrams' campaign?
Let's go this way, is to answer your question. This is a real person, Gordon McCullough. He's a retired gentleman. I believe he's in his 80s down in Georgia. These are supposedly the donations that he made, but he didn't, to the various PACs and some campaigns. So Act Blue is always the same pattern. They're always the largest one. And then you see Warnock from Georgia, Democratic Victory, Mark Kelly for Senate. So now they start spreading it across the country. Stop Republicans, Progressive Turnout Project. If you can see my screen here, let me go a little larger.
I think you have to go to you have to reshare that again a minute, because I think it here you have to go back to the present. I'll take that one down.
All right, let me go to present, share screen, and no, that's not the one I want to share. Let me get that one off. Okay, let me try it again. Nope, it doesn't show it.
Try stop screen, and then stop screen and try it again.
Here, let's do that. Can you see that now?
No, I can't. I can't see anything. So go back and do stop screen, and then present. See if you can grab the right window this time. Sometimes it's a little wonky, but I get it.
It doesn't have a stop screen. It says share screen.
Okay, well, I can put it up on mine, and then if you show me here, let's see if you can navigate me through.
I have a pie chart up. Can you see that?
I cannot, but let's go here and tell me where to click.
Oh no, it's on my computer screen. It's not on my website.
Oh, okay. No, I can't see it, but there's ways to get into it. I just don't know how to tell you to navigate it on your screen. So you have to go through the present and then pick the window that you choose. It should share, but who knows? This morning we were having problems with the audio, so we'll see.
Okay. I apologize. I don't see any buttons. I have 3 options, and none of them are. All I have is share screen, but it won't show the my screen.
Okay, so you go to present, then share screen, and then go to window.
Window.
And then pick your window.
Okay, I missed.
And then there you go. And then yeah, there you go. Every time that you get on with somebody new, it always takes a while to learn the technology because it's always changing.
All right, can you zoom by the pie?
I sure can. Very nice. Thank you.
Okay, this is Gordon McCullough. To answer your question, is that supposedly he made these donations when in fact we know he did not. But this is the same pattern that we see over tens of thousands of Smurfs. On the liberal side, it's always Act Blue is number 1. And then it breaks down to various campaigns or PACs across the country to spread the money out. Now, to answer your question, though, in addition, what happens to this Act Blue, just this segment that you see, here's where it went.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's what's happening.
Now, do you have these screenshots shared somewhere else?
No, I don't, but I need to get them up on the website. But this is what's happening, where they're taking these donations and they're divvying them up to spread the money across the country. So you'll see in a typical campaign of criminally laundered money coming in from like 25, 35 states into one campaign, when those people had no clue that the campaign was even happening. Like you'll see in our state attorney general's race, like several people donated from Alaska. Well, we know those Alaskan people are Smurfs. And it's the same thing. Who would ever think of donating, say, sending $25 to a state attorney general's race in Alaska from if you lived in Wisconsin or Michigan? You don't even know the race is happening or occurring, let alone to donate it to it. Now, there's going to be a few exceptions, of course, to that. However, when you see it on this massive volume, you can tell right away that it's Smurfing.
Well, it's like mine. There was a campaign in Virginia and one in Connecticut that were part of them hitting my credit card. So I believe the exact same way that you do, is that no one should be donating to these to anything political right now until we get this cleaned up, unless it's a candidate and where that money's going. But any of these consultants but they're like I said, they're still passing things back and forth. Until we get the money out of these elections, we are totally and completely in trouble. We're screwed.
Yeah. This is everybody in the nation have to stop making political donations.
Yes.
Until this is completely cleaned up and fixed. And it's happening on both sides. It's happening in several different methods or ways that you don't even know about until we dug into this. And here's another example. Here's a number of donations. We looked over the last 6.2 years, 14.2 million transactions under $1. This is, again, human beings are not going to get up in the morning and go to a website, make a donation for 10 cents to a political campaign. But it's happened by the tens of millions. And the same pattern happens again from $1 to $2 and $2 to $3. So this is serious money. You're talking tens of millions of dollars. And you're talking billions of dollars if you go back, say, 6-7 years, that Act Blue, when Red, and others like them have been laundering into the system. So you have no idea what's happening to your money, who it's really going to, how many transaction fees it's being pinched for. So you got to stop donating money to anybody, because that's one way we've got to force the politicians to fix this problem.
Well, and the other thing is if you really want to do put your time into it and pass information like Peter's stuff along so that people can get the information, because they're censoring us so much. We have to take all of the responsibility of doing all of this onto ourselves.
Now, I want to show this as a U.S. Congressman Troy Carter, a Democrat out of Louisiana. All the other states that have the color in them, he received donations from.
Oh my goodness.
Now, there's no way that people from 26 different states even, knew who Troy Carter was, let alone that he was running for Congress. There's no way. And these people that we trace from these 26 states have these humongous, voluminous number of contributions, like I showed on my screen earlier, and they're charted out where it's not normal human behavior. Now, you can pick most any campaign across the country, federal or state, and you can see this similar pattern like this. We have been finding as low as down into, like, we filed an ethics complaint against Corey Mason for smurfing, criminal money laundering, because Corey Mason is the mayor of the city of Racine, Wisconsin. That's how low into the political system that this is coming into. This is coming into district attorneys, circuit court judge campaigns. We have elections for those here in the state of Wisconsin. We filed a humongous complaint against Janet for Justice, which when she won, she flipped our state Supreme Court from conservative to liberal last April. But we caught her for $12.3 million. And I reported it under sworn oath to the Wisconsin Ethics Commission, and they're still processing the complaint. They accepted it. The staff attorney reviewed it, accepted it. They're processing it. It's going through the system. We'll see what happens. We also filed on Fannie Willis, and I want to pull up those numbers, and hopefully they come up. Real quick, though, back on Janet for Justice, I want to give you a great example of how this is working also. You see my screen now with the Lynn Shoemaker highlighted?
You might have to go through that process again and take the other one down. And then let me remove that one. So take that one down and then go back. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. And share screen, window. All right. So up as just a spreadsheet. These are donors to Janet for Justice, who's a Wisconsin State Supreme Court candidate last April. And you look at these donations and you just think, okay, this Lynn Shoemaker made 14 donations. Maybe he really likes her campaign and he wants her to win. Lynn's a guy, by the way. So this Lynn Shoemaker makes 14 donations. If you look at it on the surface, you think nothing's wrong. Okay, this is what's really happening. Here's Lynn Shoemaker, the 14 donations made by him to Janet for Justice. But nationally, it's been 19,000 contributions across the country.
Wow. That's
what's happening. That's what you don't see until you really dig deep and have the computing power and the knowledge and learn how to do this. We have, of course, teach ourselves how to do this. And there's other ones in here. So here's a Robert Brody, made 6 contributions to Janet, but almost 11,000 across the United States.
Wow.
So it just keeps going. Here's Alan Dennis. He made 5 to Janet. He lives up in the Twin Cities. And he made 25,000 contributions across the United States. And again, he didn't. Somebody used his name and address without his knowledge to make these contributions. That's how they're smurfing, laundering the money into the campaigns so the original donor is not known and they're not violating the campaign donation limits.
This is incredible.
Then here is Fannie Willis. Now, the first violation we stumbled across.
Let's see. I think you're going to have to redo the screen here. We're still on that report.
All right.
Let's try that again. I'd like to see, maybe, I don't know if you can come back on again and show me some of the cases you've got out there, because I think that'd be really interesting.
Here we go, is Fannie Willis. Now, this is the real Excel spreadsheet that I sent in under sworn oath to the state of Georgia about, I guess, a week and a half ago to, on campaign finance violations and criminal smurfing. Now, what you see here, obviously, is the transaction of the donation amount. Let's pick this one, $2, made on June 30th, 2023. Okay, now, the reason this is missing here, we stumbled across this when investigating her. All these donations here, 222 of them, are blank. There's no name or address at all. That's a black and white violation. It came to like $24,000, which is a lot of money when you consider it's a county district attorney race. They just don't draw in that much money compared to a large federal national race. So now you get down. So all these are automatically illegal. Okay. Now we get down into the smurfing ones. Here's where like Alan Charles, and you can see all his donations. And then you get into Chadwick, Beverly Chadwick. Now what you'll find though, you won't see, you'll just see maybe 10, 12 donations here to Fannie Willis, but you'll find this Beverly Chadwick giving tens of thousands of contributions in her name and address across the country to other campaigns. So that's how they're smurfing. That's how they're laundering the money into all these liberals and rhino campaigns. This is how it's happening. I want to show you this, the most common employer. The most common employer for all the donors of Fannie Willis. Now I have to do the...
Not employed.
Not employed. Okay, you can see my screen. Good.
Well, you get share it again then a minute, please. And yeah, I can see that one. Not employed, the most common category.
Okay, share. All right, you see that now?
Yep.
Okay, so, and then self, and then retired, and blank, 8,500 were blank. They didn't give any occupation, and the campaign finance law says that you have to. Even if you are unemployed or retired, you have to give something. And then none, 7,000. So you can see these contributions, you got 15,000 right there, where they're in violation because there's no occupation given, or they gave no, they said none on the application. So more violations of the campaign. So it does get back to the same old political structure and the governments not doing their jobs, not enforcing the law, and there it is right there.
Well, look at the names of the other contributions. You've got like Disney. You've got several medical things. You've got hospitals, medical, a bank. You've got a bunch of universities.
Correct.
You've got all those people that are dependent upon getting money for their power.
But you can't have blank, and you can't have none. That's not allowed.
But the other one is a pattern, though, that I see that's also concerning.
Correct. So there's 15,000 contributions at the state of Georgia, and I blame them for not following a finding and not prosecuting and not demanding that Fannie Willis's campaign pays the money back, because those donations were unlawful, and so were the 222 with blank of those donations of that money. Then we came across another one here. The donation limit is $3,000. So the ones in color to a Fulton County District Attorney race. So the ones highlighted in the tan color, they're all over the limit. Now, that took us seconds to find that. So that means that the state of Georgia Campaign Finance Office isn't even looking. So there's, X number of thousands of dollars into Fannie's campaign illegally. So the state, the government's not doing their job. They're not even looking. That's how bad it is. And then here's 2024. These are actual campaign donations that came in. I'm sorry, summaries of the Federal Election Commission. So this gentleman, just to take the first one, number 2, this gentleman made a donation or donations to Fannie Willis's campaign, but then on a national scale, he made close to 13,000 contributions on a national scale to other campaigns. And I'm going to say again, if you investigated, his bank, credit card, or debit card statements would not match up, showing that there's 12,766 contributions. Now, this puts them personally in a predicament, because they could, be reported or charged by the IRS because they say, well, you underreported your income because you're showing here, according to the federal government, you're showing $72,000 that was donated to campaigns. However, Mr. Chopra, you only reported, $30,000 because you're elderly and retired. You only reported $30,000 on your income, but you're giving away $272,000. He could be hit with a tax liability, conceivably.
Yeah, this looks like a great way to harass people too, that they wanna go after. I mean, honestly.
So that's money laundering, that's smurfing, and we're finding it nationwide. And this is a great way to take these people down, that these corrupt politicians across the country, that, it's hard to find election fraud. I mean, we did, but it's hard to find it. It's hard to prove it. It's hard to get a court to act on it. Even though we have, it's not to the level that we'd like, of course. But this money laundering, this is black and white. They can't get rid of the financial bank statements or the merchant services. They can't get rid of the credit card statements. This is all recorded in the banks and the financial system, so they can't go destroy the evidence.
So what's the step forward to prosecuting this or holding them accountable?
Well, we've been filing in our state is ethics complaints, which our campaign finance ethics commission of the state of Wisconsin has, by state law, charged to prosecute, and first civilly, but then they can refer criminal charges to the local county DA. So I would look for a similar thing in your state and see if you could prosecute that way.
Wow, this is amazing.
Now I want to do this one last one here is share screen window.
This is a lot to process, that this is so widespread, and what an egregious fraud this is.
Now, this is a real, if you see a Divvy debit card, this is a real receipt we obtained from the federal government. Leahy, Utah is out by Salt Lake City. It's kind of a Silicon Valley knockoff. So what happened here is Divvy debit card, they were recently bought out by bills.com. It does the same thing. These are outfits that say they can issue upwards to, say, if you want to issue 50 million debit cards or prepaid gift cards for Walmart, and they want to put them in their stores across the country. That's what the good intent is. Well, here's the bad intent, what's happened. This color of change pack, if you can see at the bottom of the screen now, this color change pack had $700,000 in prepaid debit cards. What they did is, there's more transactions that we have. They sold the $700,000 of debit cards and traded them instead for gift cards. Now, there's no way that makes sense unless you're going to do something crooked, because you're going to pay a humongous transaction fee. You're going to lose money. And this $700,000 then went into the gift cards. Then we could see that the gift cards were used to make political donations. Well, they washed the money off of where the $700,000 originally came from, because they washed it from prepaid debit cards to gift cards where the names are lost of the original contributor or contributors. And then those gift cards went into this particular one, not all of it, but some of it, went into Alan Bragg's campaign in New York City.
Wow.
Color Change Pack was a huge funder of Alan Bragg's campaign. And some of the $700,000 went into his campaign. Untraceable, almost. We were able to do it, but it took a lot of time and money and computing power and programming. We do our own programs, coding. So that's how this is happening.
I don't even have any words at this point in time, because this is so complex, and there's so much to it. I mean, this isn't one way of committing fraud. This is kind of a complicated ballet of fraud. Now,
you see on my screen, Sonia with a picture of her house?
Yeah.
Well, Sonia now is over 65,000 contributions, and that's just in really 3 or 4 years. That means 40 times a day, 40 contributions per day, 360 days per year. Well, this last March in 2023, Sonia was put in an assisted living facility. Her daughter took over the finances, and her daughter told us the donations are still happening under her name, but not through her bank account.
How do you shut that? Do you shut that down?
Well,
I mean,
this is identity theft. This
yeah.
is criminal money laundering. This is the Bank Secrecy Fraud Act. This is Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. This is elderly financial abuse. And the daughter, we encourage her, she should go to the sheriff and file a criminal complaint with the sheriff.
Has there been any action in that direction, or is she still pondering how to deal with it?
I do not know. I have not spoken to her recently.
Well, and this is one of the problems too, though, I think, is that people feel like, what do I do when I go forward? I mean, there really isn't a victim advocate that I know of that would help a person go through the process.
Here's another example of a Smurf. As an unsuspecting elderly senior citizen who's retired, 74 years old, low to middle class, based on his home there. He's retired 7 years, but the key is here, he's made 14 donations to Janet for Justice, which is a state Supreme Court again, but that's 10 a day. It's 10 donations a day, year round, every single day, 365 days per year for 7 years. There's no human being that is gonna do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I beg people, don't make any political donations whatsoever, even if you write a check to your campaign of your local candidate. The problem is, if he has excess funds, that money then he's going to send to the rhinos at the head of your state, if it's a Republican, or of course a Democrat. So you never know where your money's really going to end up at, or at least all of it, and then you're going to be hit with transaction fees. So again, a way to do is cut off the donations to everybody, so the politicians, that's going to, make them stand up and do something.
Well, I think in all cases, when you cut the funding and you cut the incentive from bad people to do the wrong thing, we've talked about this in different procedures for our government, how to write it. You just cut funding. If you don't like something, you can cut the funding to it. There's no obligations. And we can do this on a personal level. So this is amazing. And also pass this information on to others. Everyone has an obligation to help protect those people around them, which is every American out there. So pass this information on to your family, your friends, the people around you, and get loud about it. We all have social networks, and we can step outside of the normal fake stream media to get this information out there.
Yes.
To help Peter and all the work that he's doing. We can have people that are wonderful like Peter and the people he works with doing this work, but if we don't help him, it really is throttled back quite significantly. But if we all jump and join force and get this information out, we can actually help Peter in this fight with this information that they have worked. How many hours have you guys put into this? This is like incredible.
We have a volunteer team. We're not being paid. We have a volunteer team roughly of 10 people. There's actually 2,000 across the state of Wisconsin. But the core day to day, we're working 7 days a week, typically 10 to 12 hours per day, and we work year round for 3 years. So it's to help save the state and the country. I have no political motivation to do this. I don't get anything from it. In fact, I get attacked by people for various reasons for doing this. And but I beg people, don't make any donations. You do not know what's happening with your money that you're giving. And the worst is it's even ending up in politicians' campaigns or pockets that you don't support. Even if you donate to a conservative candidate, that's the problem. So
funding the enemy.
You're funding the enemy.
Yes.
And you don't know it. And you don't, you don't know exactly where your money is ending up or how it's being used.
The problem that I see, like in the state of Michigan, as poster child for this, is the political parties are functioning like cults. So people have to do things in order to garner support from those and from those that are above them and such. And so they think that they're going to get favor by donating, by jumping into their causes, by helping them and such. But quite often, what I think we've got going is we've got political operatives or people that are truly just really bad people that are trying to strip away the funds from everyday Americans, and they're part of the problem. And we've got to remember, not everything we see is what is portraying itself to be. I think there's a lot of people using President Trump's name, tremendous amount of people that use his name, as a the greatest president of the United States, in my opinion, and the rightful president of the United States. I believe there are people out there that use his name, and just like people use the name of God in vain, and they use his name to commit all kinds of crimes.
I would even encourage people to ask me what you can do, and this is a different tact, is that you send it a written notice and make it short, but you tell your politicians that you're not donating them for this reason. You do not know where your money's going. You do not know what the transaction fees are. And they don't know. The candidates don't know really where this money is going to or from and so forth. A lot of candidates get in new and try to run and make the change in the system, but they really don't know this whole scam or schemes are going on. And they don't know actually that their money left over in the campaign, or some of it, could end up in somebody else's pockets. So you need to send them and tell them why you're not going to donate, because you don't trust the campaign finance system, because you don't know where your money's going. I hope you see my screen here. Here's 52,000 of a Margot Summerfield that we'll leave you off with. And look at the campaign transactions here. You can adjust the chart here, and here is 3,206 contributions in one day. Now this is per the FEC data. This is not our data. This is the federal government saying there are 3,206 contributions made that day by a Margot Summerfield in California for $40.
I can't believe that they're it's so egregious and they're getting away with it. If any one of us had anything in our finances that looked even remotely this suspect, the IRS would come down on us like ugly on an ape.
And there's another transaction supposedly, but of course we know she didn't. 1,080 transactions for $20,000 or $21,000 on one day.
Wow.
Now, again, she didn't do that. This is the corrupt system that's laundering the money into the system. Republicans are doing it. Democrats are doing it. And it has to stop. It has to be fixed.
Okay, so send a note to your politicians. This is the action plan here. Send a note to the politicians, your public functionaries, and tell them you're going to be no longer donating to them and or any of their causes until they get this thing fixed. And
put a link to this podcast of this show. Put a link in your letter to this show.
Yeah, what we're going to start doing is we're going to cut our broadcast up into small bits too, so that we can do. Karen is going to be helping with this in cutting this down into, say, like smaller increments, because I know a 2-hour show sometimes is a lot for people to watch. But you can grab some video off of this and send it to them too. We all do this for free because we want our nation back. I work for free. Peter's working for free. Karen, Ralph, Bill, all of us are doing this for free because we just love this nation. And this is something that you can really help us with, is actually passing this information along and helping to educate our public functionaries on what's actually going on, and also what we're asking them, we're telling them we want done to remedy the situation. I'm really interested in seeing your court cases too. Perhaps, I don't know if you can come back on another day, because I know you're so busy and I really appreciate this so much. But if we can get more of this information out there in people's hands, maybe we can, mobilize an army of people to jump on and help. Listen, you got 10 guys over there. And I mean, guys is the gender neutral term for everybody in Michigan. Everybody's a guy in Michigan. I got a guy that does this and a guy that does that. So you got 10 guys over there approximately that are doing this work for free. And, if we could get thousands of people to jump on this and help them think about what we could change. This is amazing, because this is where they're buying our elections.
Yeah, it is. They're buying the elections. They're not winning them.
And installing their puppets. So and I've got a lot of questions. I mean, the more you talk, the more questions that I had is, if you start seeing the smurfing happening on a candidate per se, is that happening to all candidates, or just the ones that they choose as their puppets that they know won't say anything or capitulate?
On the liberal side, you're pushing close to 100% it's happening, because they're all using the same method, the same scheme. On the Republican side, it's quite interesting. The more of a rhino that the candidate is, the more likely that they are participating and involved in smurfing.
So it's an indicator.
You will find on the conservative candidates that you won't find any, or you find one or two smurfs when the rhino smurf will have 10,000 contributions that are smurfed. So it's very interesting. But on the rhino side or on the Republican side, I would say, and this is strictly kind of a guesstimate, is 50% of all Republican campaigns have smurfing in it.
So it sounds to me like it's kind of an indicator on who is truly part of the establishment. If they have that in campaigns, they were probably chosen to fund it through this fraudulent method to help them.
And I mentioned again is Mitch McConnell is up to his neck in this smurfing, criminal money laundering. So is Lindsey Graham, Kevin McCarthy. Of course, on the liberal side, Joe Biden is the number one in the nation, which is not that big of a surprise.
Yeah.
When you read the news articles about him, look up Joe Biden and individual contributions. They're bragging how many, the people support him. They're giving him all these donations from across the country. No, they're not. It's smurfing. It's criminal money laundering that Joe Biden, our president, so-called president, is participating in. Warnock for Senate is a big one down in Georgia. He's a U.S. senator. He's involved in this. U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin, we're going to be filing a complaint on her. She's in on this. Alvin Bragg, we're going to be filing a complaint, I hope this week, against the New York City prosecutor who's falsely prosecuting President Trump. We already filed on Fannie Willis. We're going to file on Alvin Bragg. And I'm going to announce now, we're going to file on Letitia James coming up, hopefully next week.
Wow, this is so inspiring. This is what one person can do who truly believes and finds something that's not right and just decides to throw himself and his entire effort into it to fixing it. I'm so proud of you. This is really amazing.
Well, thank you. But they have a great team behind me and around me and supporting. So that's super. I want to announce also Gretchen Whitmer is a big time into criminal money laundering and of money into her campaign.
Yeah, that's no surprise. She's broken the law so many times, it's not even funny. I went around and I talked to, when I was running for governor, about, I don't know, a third to the half of the sheriffs in the state, and asked them, why didn't you arrest her? You had the power to do it. Because she should have been arrested for the constitutional or the violations of the Constitution and the rights of individuals. And they basically said, who's going to prosecute it? And
Yep.
so that I would rather be able to serve my community and do something rather than do nothing. Well, to me, that's like a cop-out. You don't walk away from your duty, even if you don't think it's going to go somewhere with the people in place. You go after the next level. So if the prosecutor's not going to do his job, then you go after the prosecutor. If the judge isn't going to do his job, then you go after the judge to have them removed for their violations of their oath of office. You can't just stop when it gets difficult. You've got to get in there and you've got to chip away at it, and you keep going and keep going and keep going until you remove every last rat off the ship.
But
And-
again, you can see by this chart on the screen, reiterating, is that this is not normal human behavior.
Right. It's too regular. Look at the I won't be able to point at it, but look at that area to the right there
Here,
where there's a dip.
see,
A little
there's a
Yeah.
one transaction for $10.
Yeah.
Another one for 10, another one for 13, another one for 10. But
But
see,
look at the last group of spikes. They're perfectly a little bit to the left.
oh, here.
Right there. Look at the perfect spacing of those spikes.
Yes,
Human
exactly.
beings don't act that way.
There's 39 contributions that particular day of $274.
Yeah.
Again,
It's
what
too
a human being gets up on a particular day and says, I'm going to make, or does make, 39 political contributions. Nobody.
Yeah,
And-
yeah,
and
that's what we're gonna
even
do.
more
I'm gonna get up this day, and I'm just gonna make it my goal to have to do 39 political contributions all over the United States, because that's just what we do. It's crazy.
But then you go to the next day again, though, you have 38 there, and the next day you have not on 20, and the next day 11, next day 6, next day 12, next day 24. People don't do that.
Yeah, seriously. Well, gosh, this was really wonderful. I know I'm trying to be cognizant of your time, because I know you are incredibly busy. Would you be able to come on next week again? Because I'm really finding this fascinating, and I'd love to go through your complaints. I'd like you to consider that, and maybe
Sure, we'll talk behind the scenes, as they say.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, I support everything that you're doing. I think this is extraordinary, and we do need to warn people not to give money to campaigns or to anything political right now. I would say that that's the best piece of advice I've heard today. So with that said, I always end with a prayer here. So let's pray, and then we're going to go on with our day and ask for God's blessings. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for Peter and Bill and Ralph and Karen and all the wonderful patriots out there, everyone who's willing to stand for this nation. I ask that you would truly give your favor to Peter and everyone standing with him, that you would open doors, that you would give them more information that would come to the surface, that you would give them all the help that they would need to get this information out, to warn people, to bring these people who are money laundering through our government to justice, that you would, it is a global crimes criminal organization that's truly taken over our nation. And we the people don't agree with this. And we really want to be back to the way that it was supposed to be, with our rights given by you, guaranteed by the Constitution. And we're thankful for that. And we're willing to work towards that end. Thank you so much for this wonderful day. And I would ask that you would tell everybody out there in a very personal way, to each person, that they're important to you, that you're standing with each person, that they're not alone. They don't have to be depressed or upset about this, but they do need to get going and get in the game and help everyone to fight this fight to right this nation, and give them the guidance to know what to do, how to do it, and the courage not to be afraid if they need to file complaints or criminal cases or anything like that, that you would guide and direct them and give them everything that they need. You never abandon us or forsake us. You're always with us, guiding us and directing us, and we're so thankful for that. You're a wonderful friend to us, and we want to be a friend to you too. We love you. In the name of Jesus Christ's precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for being here. So for everybody out there, this is that part of the show. Go to BrandenburgForGovernor.com, because I'm the best non-conceder who has ever not conceded to liars, cheats, and thieves in our nation, in our elections, and in our governance right now, because we're not going to quit until we write all of this. And we're going to keep going. We're going to do it together, and we're going to find people like Peter to help along the way, so that we can truly stand together as one nation under God. And with it said, God bless you. God bless everyone you know and love. And God bless America. Make it a great day. It starts here, here, and here. And so we got to be courageous and know that we're not alone. God is walking us through this, as he always has when he's at his people that he's bringing out of captivity. So you can walk forward with confidence, with bravery, and with courage, knowing that we're going in the right direction. God wins every single time. and have a great day. I'm going to be off tomorrow and Friday, decided to take a few days off, but I did want to get Peter on here today and Bill and everyone, because I thought this is a very important show. So please pass this on, and we will see you Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you.